Off you go, Keri.
Right, it's in the cloud. That means it's secure. Yeah, looking at this from perspective, definitely we have the opportunity to be secure in the cloud, and being reasonable about these things, it means, as I said, it depends. No real surprise there to anybody that's worked in security for a long time. There is the opportunity to be very secure in the cloud. There is the opportunity to be very insecure in the cloud. How would you like it to work tends to be my approach.
The slides aren't showing at the moment, Keri.
It tells me they are. Let me try one more time. You're sharing. Can you see my screen? Okay, that's good. Now, next question is, can I advance the slide? Okay, good. So a little bit about me. I started in IT defense manufacturing. I was an engineer, a metal basher to start with, doing CAD/CAM systems and the like many years ago, helping to design aircraft and things of those natures. But I've been around a bit, some time in tech vendors, some in cryptography, some in networking, some in other areas, systems integrators, run an MSSP, and have worked for a couple of boutique consultancies. In terms of security, my personal journey started in about 1995, as in when I started calling myself a security person, which was when I started building firewalls out of FreeBSD and IP chains for those with very long memories. And currently, what do? I look after Europe, Middle East, Africa for Arthur J. Gallagher. Those of you that know us through the rugby, yes, I am happy to get the perk occasionally to go to a game. As it says in red, primarily grumpy, personal, and not a reflection of company policy. This is a little bit sort of tongue-in-cheek, but realistic with regards to what we've been doing with security. So, as I always say to some of my board level colleagues, I spend a lot of my time translating technology into English, or a close proximity to English as I can, because our colleagues are not risk professionals in that regard. They're not security professionals. It is your risk. I use as an example the company I work for buys quite a lot of companies, small ones, usually ones that haven't invested very much in their security, and ones that have some interesting aged IT equipment. But from day one, it's our risk. We've bought them. It's our risk. If it goes wrong, it tends to bounce into the CIO's lap, into my lap, and into the business sponsor who went through buying this organization. So you can transfer it, you can do this. So cloud-wise, what does that mean? Okay, well, we've all seen it. I used to have a mug. There is no cloud. It's someone else's computer. We've got a lot of stuff out there. And for those, we've got a very technical audience here. I'll skip through it, but realistically, we've got to, as organizational directors and organizational owners, exercise reasonable skill and due diligence, act in the long-term interests of the company, and understand and competently manage risks. It's required by the Companies Act. It's required by any regulator that you would deal with. And as I said, they're not cyber experts. So I spend quite a lot of my time as chief expert trying to turn their worries into technology. So what have we got? What's a cloud? This will come as, to most of the audience, none of this is a surprise. The thing that I really want to bring out is how easy it is to make things complex in a cloud environment. It's that hybrid cloud, multi-cloud issue that becomes really the problem. I bought this from that company. I bought that from that company. Now we've connected them together. Different things, different advantages, different problems, as you work your way through it. So first things first, from a CISO's perspective, read the contract. That may sound pretty obvious, but given that most of these contracts from cloud providers are not really all that negotiable, you have to understand what's in it. Who does what, who's accountable for what, and particularly if it goes wrong, who does what, because you don't want to be finding that out. We have incident response professionals and incident response managers on the call. The last time you want to find out how this works is when you're actually in the front line in battle. Now, I'm a firm believer, and this is not knocking any particular cloud service provider, that they will all faithfully discharge their contract. They will patch if it's in the contract. They will secure the servers if it's in the contract. They're honor bound to replace broken parts. It's in the contract. But as a risk owner, as a business owner, the rest of it does sit with you. How do you want to manage this? What are you on the hook for? And please don't take this as having a go at Microsoft. They have a very nice diagram that explains it really, really well. It's taken from the Azure documentation. They talk about the different types of cloud. Most vendors have a variant of this, but it does vary from vendor to vendor, hence read your contract. But the more you go to the left, the more they will do for you. But I think what's really interesting and is hard to get over to a lot of our board colleagues and business colleagues is no matter what, you are responsible for the information and data. You are responsible for any devices that connect in, and you're responsible for the accounts and the identities. Who has what, who has access to what, who is involved in their, if they leave, you have to delete them, nobody else is going to, things of that nature that are part of this. Now, in some ways, if you've got a lot of different clouds, who does what where? You've got a matrix of needs, and you have to map it out per cloud almost, and then look at it from the perspective of your business of who does what with which cloud, and when things are connected together, how you want to look at it. This one really surprises me because the lack of understanding in this area is usually why people go, oh, well, I don't need to worry about the security because I'm in the cloud. The number of times I've found even relatively medium-sized businesses where somebody has shared a drive, they've shared their OneDrive, and they haven't just shared a folder, they've shared the whole thing. And as a security manager, I don't know, because somebody has done it because they have the permissions to do it. And everything that's in there is now available to whoever they decided to share it with. Might be good, might be bad. If you've shared your entire payroll folder, that could get a bit embarrassing. But you'd be surprised how many humans do get involved in that sort of behavior. So what are the other challenges? What are people not talking about? First of all, where's my data? What do I mean by where's my data? Well, at the grand state, everybody worries about data residency. In my industry, I have to worry a lot about that. I have different national regulators who have very territorial views of where the data should be. But I'm also worried about interfaces between services and data. And I'm not picking on Salesforce unnecessarily, but we have a concept with the Salesforce applications, which are widely used, which is the idea of force.com, the integrations that are really easy to do to your Salesforce database. Many of these force.com plugins take your data from Salesforce into their cloud. So let's think about that. I've now got to secure 2 places, not 1. Where's the data? I used to talk about data fragmentation. I'm almost coming to a point of talking about data atomization, whereby connecting together all these microservices from all these different clouds, I end up with my data scattered all over the internet. It's kind of hard to secure it in that perspective. None of the technologies are failing, but knowing where it is and dealing with it is a major issue. I said about complexity. There are many, many different ways to give and get privileges. In AWS, there are almost 1,800 different ways to grant privilege. Now, you've got different teams doing different things. Are they all doing it the same way? Do you have the same way of giving privilege? Are you in control of that privilege? Becomes a security professional's nightmare and something quite difficult to explain to a board member. So working all that through. So how do you go through it? How do you track it? How do you trace it? The other things that are largely not mentioned, nobody talks about backup. Now, everybody goes, yeah, Microsoft are looking after the data. It's in their cloud. And we've got a data center here and a data center here. That's great. That's high availability. Thank you very much. What about disaster recovery, resilience, and backup? When things really, really go wrong, have you tested the backups? Are you ready? Are you ready to go? More a problem for smaller businesses than larger ones. A larger business will typically have a bunch of systems professionals who get quite excited about this sort of thing. My board tend not to be that excited about it unless it doesn't work. And that really is what we're talking there. So, and finally, integrity, change management processes. Have I got what I think I've got? It's pretty quick to make changes in most cloud environments. You can make a change yourself, but because you're not going through their change board, are you going through your change board? How do you know what was there? How do you know what you've got? There are some pretty significant traditional IT problems which to a degree become more complex in a cloud, particularly in a multi-cloud environment. None of this reflects badly on the technology provider. So saying these are traditional IT problems, practical risk management is not that different. Good IT discipline, I know I'm talking to the choir, but good IT discipline is really important here. You need to understand what's valuable. Yeah. I have a lot of people who connect systems together and bolt them together, but really what's valuable to me? Where is the key customer data? What are the applications and systems that provide the business value? What are the ones that, if it really goes wrong, would take this company under fastest? Tends to be the approach that I have to do. I love all the technologies, all the things. It's really great to see the shiny things I can do, be it artificial intelligence, be it voice processing, be it process workflow. The more of these shiny things we chase and the more of them we connect together, the more complicated it gets. And keeping on top of it becomes harder and harder and harder. So most of the reason my business colleagues want to move to cloud is they think it will save them money. They think it will be simpler to operate. And yet they want this bit from here, this bit from here, and bolt them together. And suddenly we have a very complicated environment. The advice is to always keep it simple. Be consistent, work to your standards, stick to the standards. Basic governance. Finally, of course, there's a lot of free tools you can implement within your cloud. Make sure you switch them on. If you go to Microsoft 365, and many people will use it, you've got regular reporting. You've got the Sentinel-based tooling that gives you monitoring of what people are doing. Depending on which license you buy, you may also be able to do data leakage prevention within that cloud without connecting it to something else. Depending on which phones you're using, you can use multi-factor authentication to sign into privileged accounts. That's why I say in the cloud you have the great potential to secure pieces of it, but it comes down to an overall end-to-end approach and framework. So one version of the jargon, NIST's latest version, version 2. It's getting closer to ISO. They've added a governance phrase to it now. It used to be know what you've got, identify, protect the important bits, detect things that are going wrong and be able to base that, have response plans, and when everything goes wrong, be able to recover. But they've also recently added and are rolling out governance, standards, decisions, records, which will give us some of these to actually move through. So being a CISO, sadly, doesn't tend to mean you get to play with the toys. Mostly, I'm the grumpy old fella in the corner whose job is to say, are you sure you really want to do that? Because, realistically, we're just working our way through that process, company by company, solution by solution, time at a time. So thoughts before I get absolutely pilloried for being controversial. Cloud services are great. I've got many of them. I've been working with them for 6-7 years now. And before that, we had outsourced things and things of that nature. So whether you call that a cloud or not, they bring great opportunities for you to move quickly. Clouds do eliminate some aspects of security risk because I really believe that cloud service providers will execute on what they're contracted for, because if they don't, they're out of business. Trust, but verify. It can be easy to get into complex situations, particularly if you have a team that like, the newest, the shiniest, be it a particular development or technology team, a marketing team. It's not often the lawyers, but, we'll go through those things and work at it. There is always the opportunity to get yourself into a complex situation. It's all basic IT. Yes, Andrew. Yeah, it's yeah, absolutely. We'll come back to that. But what's important? How does it actually go through and these things? So where can you go for help? Actually, there's some really good stuff free available for smaller companies out there. The NCSC Cloud Framework gives you a really good thinking set of tools. You're going to have to do the thinking yourself. They've got some really good information for board directors. The board pack is great there, and some highlights for regulation for particular industries, including critical infrastructure, advice on how you manage IoT and things of that nature. I say the website for your clouds. If you want the technical standards and best practices for Azure, you go to Microsoft. If you want them for AWS, you go to Amazon. There's vast amounts of information, and your technical teams will be able to help you process that. Even though, as a CISO in a small organization, as Andrew points out, you're going to spend a lot of the time doing this yourself. I still do. I'm a sad old techie at heart, but it doesn't help me in my day-to-day work. And finally, of course, around this table at the CRC and at B-sides, you've got a lot of people here involved in the Exeter area who will be able to give you advice and other pieces. And as for me, I don't mind people messaging me. If anybody wants to talk, I'm always happy to help out where I can. So, there are bits and pieces we can do here together. I just wanted really to say that this is a challenge we all have to accept. It's not really an optional statement, but it's not really all that surprising. Most of the problems, there are techniques for doing, there are places to get advice. We're just going to have to work through the process methodically together to make sure we protect each other.